The winner is Dr. Pete Morkel.
Done the right thing by staying sat put. We were so excited at seeing him, I forgot to say, so you can be seated, thank you very much. I'm going to get you up again for this. I'll take this one. Well done, Pete. Because before Dr. Morkel comes to receive his award, we would like to show you a short film of his work.
Behind what I do is a concern for Africa's wildlife. This incredible diversity of wildlife on the continent is going fast. I've got to try and turn that around. I've spent most of my career translating animals. Move one more animal, save one more animal, it's right on the brink of extinction. You just feel good about it, you know that what I do today really can make a difference.
We call him Pete the Legend. When it comes to working with rhinos, all the protocols that we are using all have come through Pete. His role is to help us have that extra eye on the things that we might not pay attention to.
It's not that easy. Essentially, we use an overdose of a immobilizing agent, so we have to get to them immediately they go down. The moment they go down, give the antidote, do the necessary, we blindfold them, we block the ears, we put the ropes on them, walk them into a crate or chariot as we call it. Obviously they're not used to being in captivity, so it's stressful. After we caught the first one, quickly try to catch a second one just to give it company, and then get them used to, as much as possible, what they're going to have to go through on the trip to their final destination.
Pete's well known for rhino conservation in Africa, but it's much more than that. He's been involved in a suite of species conservation, from giraffe through to giant sable, elephant across the continent. There's few people in the world who have as much skills and knowledge as Pete. Has been involved in all of our giraffe translocations that GCF has coordinated. We bring Pete as our technical advisor. Pete's attitude towards animals and the welfare of is matched by very few. It's always about the animal's interest at heart.
That's great when you get animals to that stage where they're just comfortable with what you're trying to do. They certainly sort of almost put their trust in you. I'm sure they have most of our emotions, and you realise that they're not very different.
When Pete came aboard, I learned patience, hard work, and techniques that I used not to know before. I think he's a very good mentor and he's someone who knows his work.
He's really working to make sure he gives us the confidence that we need. He gives us also the skills that we need. I think if you told me whom do you want to be as a wildlife vet, I would say I want to be like Pete.
Few have done what Pete has done over the years, and his contribution to conservation is phenomenal. We've seen the continent of Africa struggle over the last few years from loss of numbers, but Pete's passion is to bring those back in areas that they were. He is someone who wants to give back. He's training people constantly, and really he has helped many careers of people across Africa and the world.
Even when I know it's going to be very tough, it's nice when you do a good job and it all comes together and you just feel good that you've made a difference.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's certainly a great and unexpected honour to be standing here before you. But I must say, sneaking through the forest, darting an elephant on foot is a lot less intimidating than this. For this magnificent event, I would like to thank Tusk, their sponsors, especially Investec, and all the good people who work tirelessly behind the scenes. For their love and support, I'm deeply grateful to my wonderful, uncomplaining wife of 32 years, Estelle. My children, Cherie and Benoit, my parents, Sheila and Van, and my siblings, Dave, Mike and Claire. I'm also indebted to the countless people in the conservation world who I've worked with over the years for their help, knowledge and inspiration. The rangers, trackers, managers, ecologists, researchers, veterinarians and so many more. Thank you. I want to make special mention of Dr. Anthony Hall Martin, who was my boss and mentor for many years. He passed away in 2014. While working for South African National Parks, he greatly increased the number and size of the parks in the country. And on retiring, he established African Parks, which is one of the most exciting and successful initiatives in conservation in the last 2 decades. It's of course a great pity that only a very small number of people can receive awards like these. There are countless unsung heroes in conservation who will never get an award or the recognition they deserve. And I'd like to say to all of those people out there, please see this also as your award. On such a happy evening, it pains me to now take a more serious tone. Working across Africa for the last 30-odd years has given me a good idea of the state of the continent's wildlife and wild places. And sadly, as a whole, they are in peril as never before. Africa currently has 1.3 billion people, and that will triple by the end of the century to 4 billion. Take the Sahel country, Niger, which is the home to the last West African giraffe. Niger is one of the fastest growing human populations in the world, with an average of 7 children per woman. Currently it has 23 million people, and this is predicted to increase to 140 million by 2100. It is frankly inconceivable that there will be a place for so many people in such a desperately poor country, let alone a place for wildlife. And this scenario applies to most countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Africa is fast losing its wildlife and the habitat it needs to survive. Numbers of large mammals, for which the continent is so famous, have plummeted over the last few decades, and numerous species and subspecies have gone or are on the edge of extinction. And I've seen some of these animals disappear. There used to be millions of forest elephant in Africa, and now there are only 60,000 left. And the numbers continue to drop at about 10% a year. In 1997, we mobilized a black rhino in Cameroon, and 4 months later it was poached, and that was the end of the West African subspecies of black rhino. In the 1990s, we put transmitters on 16 northern white rhino in Garamba, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and by 2006, that sole remaining wild population had gone. Earlier this year, the very last surviving northern white rhino male from Sudan, who we had moved to a conservancy in Kenya from a zoo in the Czech Republic, died. And now only 2 lonely white rhino females, a mother and a daughter, remain alive. Of course, good governance with strong, unselfish leadership is needed to tackle the challenges we face. And looking after wildlife and the environment is not a luxury that our continent can ill afford in desperate times. It's an absolute necessity if Africa is to survive the next 100 years. And without healthy ecosystems, our rainfall will decrease, our rivers will run dry, our land will become yet more degraded, deforested, desertified, and there will be less food, less work, less income, and it will be a much poorer life for all. So what are we to do? One thing is for sure, we can't give up. To save Africa's wildlife and wild places, our response must be equal to the challenge, and we need to massively up our game. And that being the case, I ask those of you here this evening who have influence to use it unashamedly. Speak to Africa's leaders, impress upon them the value of conservation, bring them on board. Ask them to put aside areas for wildlife and to add land to existing parks. Seek their approval, to allow in help to manage these areas. Luckily, we have a few leaders who are passionate conservationists, and we must work with them to boldly move things forward across the continent. Outside Africa, relentless pressure also needs to be applied to those countries where the largest demand exists for illegal wildlife and wildlife products, and similar pressure needs to be applied to those countries and businesses who are aggressively taking Africa's natural resources and not paying fairly for them, and not respecting our environment and not uplifting our people in the process. And those of you here this evening with wealth, please be generous. If nothing else, by this stage, we know how money can best be used for conservation in Africa, and a little money can go a long way. And there are many organizations like Tusk that are doing excellent work and need more funding. Find out what is working and who is to be trusted, and put your money there. And for those of you here this evening who have neither influence nor wealth, you too can still make a huge difference. There are many inspiring stories from Africa of very ordinary people who, with commitment, energy and courage, have turned things around for our wildlife and wild places. Some of those people have previously won Tusk Awards, and some are here tonight. Not only have they made an immense difference themselves, but they've inevitably inspired others to fight the good fight. Please get involved, volunteer, find out what needs to be done, and offer your energy, skills, and enthusiasm, and convince others to join the cause. And on that note, we really do need to cultivate a lot more passionate conservationists, people who aren't in it just to earn a living, but because it is a pleasure and a privilege to be caring for the most awesome wildlife on this planet. And for those of you who feel environmental challenges are best tackled by directly assisting people, I urge you to focus your energies into empowering the women of Africa. They have the energy and want to solve many of the problems we face. And to finish off, I've just been working with a splendid ranger in Akagera National Park, who's in charge of monitoring the black rhino, and his name is Leonidas. It is a perfect name for a fearless individual. And like the historical Leonidas, we must not be daunted by the odds facing us. We need to get out there and do what it takes to save Africa's magnificent wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that passionate speech, and congratulations. Thank you very much.